Harriet is going to come help light the chalice. She is visiting from Arizona along with her mother, who's going to assist and grew up in this church. Mhm. Even as the days have grown shorter, and our wicks burn lower, and our will to endure flickers, we light this chalice to kindle a flame of warmth, as a reminder of the connection that draws us in to a community that opens us up. In gratitude for the breath in our lungs and the love in our hearts, for the gift of this day, alive. Thank you. Our Reverend Kathy Hurt has our opening words.
The opening words this morning are by Unitarian Universalist Minister Gretchen Haley. The time of waiting is almost over. Christmas is almost here. How will we meet it? For Christmas comes not just for us to celebrate, but to ask us, will we open our hearts to the poor, the refugee, the helpless? Will we make a long journey guided by nothing more than a star of hope? Will we open ourselves to the love that comes to meet us in whatever fields we may lay? Christmas is almost here. How will we meet it? So this morning, we're going to do our hymns a little bit differently. You'll need your actual physical hymnal, unless you know a lot of Christmas carols by memory. Between numbers 225 and 259 are a whole array of both familiar carols and probably some that none of us have ever sung before. And what I want to do is to invite you to call out the number of whatever is your favorite there, what you'd like us to sing. We'll sing a verse, maybe two of that, and we'll do this for a little bit. So, do I have a brave person who already has seen their favorite and wants us to sing it? Just raise your hand. And yet you're a timid bunch. Yes. 225. And once you stay seated for much of this, all right, we'll sing the first verse. Next choice, Jay. 240. I heard the bells on Christmas Day. one of the pleasures or challenges of being a Unitarian Universalist is that we don't always do things the way we're accustomed to doing them, which means these carols may have sometimes unfamiliar melodies, or the words have been altered a little bit. So we have to stay on top of our game. Alex? 235. And let's rise in body or spirit for this one. It's a more energetic one. Let's have one more selection. We're going to do this again later. Cal? 251. Please be seated. Our Unitarian Universalist tenets that just try to describe who we are and where we come from says that we draw the wisdom from many traditions. One of the traditions that is increasingly meaningful to many people here is the pagan tradition. And in recognition of that, we've added a new carol to some of you that is a pagan carol. And to introduce it to us and lead us in it, I'd like to ask Melissa Wynn to come up, please. Melissa is the contact person for our chapter of Unitarian Universalist Pagans.
Hello, everyone. Blessed Yule. Today is the solstice. So we are happy to be here, be gathered. This is God's Rest Ye Merry Pagan Folk, which I don't think we have, yes. So you might know the tune. It's to God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, but pagan. So if any of my other cups people want to come up and sing with me, so we can, yay, thank you. I'm not going to use the mic though. I took a picture.
It is the time for all ages, if the kids will come up. Oh, there. Going to be shy. Okay. So, this is kind of an odd story. In order to understand it, you have to know three things. First of all, Christmas season is generally a time of great joy, love, excitement, but sometimes it's a time of sadness or even anger. So, that's going to be important. Secondly, you have to know what a nativity scene is. So what is a nativity scene? Do you know?
Isn't it like one of those representations of like the Jesus being born and like the wise men and everything?
Perfect. So we've got baby Jesus. We've got how many wise men? Three. Who else? Who else is going to be there? Oh, besides wise men and Jesus, who else do we need? Shepherds, Mary, who else? Joseph, sheep, need sheep. Actually, there's not a donkey in this story, but sometimes, right? And probably up in the sky is going to be a star, and the baby is going to be in which is a feeding trough full of hay for the animals to eat, right? Okay, so that's the second thing. The third thing you have to know is the song, The 12 Days of Christmas, which we are not going to sing, but I do want you to sing the very, very beginning. Ready? On the first day of Christmas, my true love. Stop. That's all you need. My true love. Normally we give presents to people we love or at least like, right? Not in this story. In this story, the person is sneaking in the night and leaving presents by the door of an enemy. So take a minute to think what you might give there. It's called A Rare Nativity. On the first night of Christmas, I gave my enemy a briar from a tanglewood tree. Very prickly, right? On the second night of Christmas, I gave my enemy 2 broken eggs. On the third night of Christmas, I gave my enemy 3 crooked forks. On the fourth night, I gave my enemy 4 old potatoes. No good to eat, kind of wrinkly. On the fifth night of Christmas, I gave my enemy 5 shards of glass. So that's broken pieces, right? Sharp. On the sixth night of Christmas, I gave my enemy 6 crumpled tissues. On the seventh night of Christmas, I gave my enemy 7 scraps of paper. On the eighth night of Christmas, I gave my enemy 8 lumps of clay. On the ninth night of Christmas, I gave my enemy 9 rusty nails. Yep. On the 10th night of Christmas, I gave my enemy a bird nest in 10 pieces. On the 11th night of Christmas, I gave my enemy 11 dead leaves. And on the 12th night of Christmas, I gave my enemy 12 gnarly twigs. The night that followed number 12, I slept till 3:30 and wallowed in my sallow state against my enemy. I'm lying there at night thinking, ha, ha, ha. They're going to really hate this. It's going to be so awful and I'm going to love it. I dreamed my enemy convulsed. I dreamed he gagged and swore. My dreams were dashed as I awoke to knocking on the door. I grumbled out of bed, and then I shuffled toward the sound. I opened up the door to find a gift upon the ground. The tag upon the lid contained a note addressed to me. I recognized the penmanship. It was my enemy. Do you think you should open it? I don't know. But the tag says, "Forgive me." I gently pulled the knotted twine, and setting it aside, I lifted up the lid to find the compendium inside. 5 shards of glass composed a singular display. It looks like, what's in the sky? A star. The sheep were made of tissue, bits of bird nest made the hay. Potato shepherds came to life with carvings and with clay, as paper angels shouted out their wonders and their praise. Pretty talented person. 3 kingly forks each bowed ahead, near rusted spiky pegs that made a manger full of hay from the dead grass. The briar baby lay between the pale parental eggs. So the eggs became the Mary and Joseph, all right. All foolish things, all rotten things I'd sent my enemy were carefully converted in this rare nativity. He turned the other cheek and made my ugliness a gem. And by so doing, pointed me to lovely Bethlehem. Now, thinking about that a minute, he did not actually show on a map how to get to Bethlehem, did he? No GPS. So what's he talking about? How did this gift show that person who was so full of anger the way to Bethlehem? Any ideas? Yeah. Sometimes we have a challenge. We have to take someone else's anger and ugliness, or anger and ugliness we just find out in the world, and we have to convert it. We have to change it into something better. And when we do that, we're showing that other person the way back to the kindness and love in their hearts that they might have buried, they might have forgotten about. We think of Bethlehem, if that's where Jesus was born and he represents love and accepting everyone and goodness and kindness, we're showing them back to that way. And that's a challenge for all of us to take the ugliness we find and turn it back to show other people what they might have buried in their hearts and need to find again. Thank you for listening. The sharing of joys, milestones, and concerns is a tradition in our fellowship. You're welcome to come up, drop a glass pebble into the bowl of water silently, or while speaking a few words into the microphone. This practice shares our joys and helps us to support each other in sorrows. Remember to tell about others only with their permission. This is a sacred time for us. a time of meditation and prayer.
Please join now in a spirit of reflection, meditation, and prayer. Spirit of the season, Spirit of all seasons. We are searching this season, seeking to be finally persuaded that hope is not just a good idea, that love is not naive, that faith is not just the brave face we put on a hopeless situation. Spirit of the season, grant us a measure of peace, fill us each with hope and good cheer, and grant that each one be surrounded by those by whom they are loved, and that in the tumult of this season, may we hear within each heart a word of grace. Amen.
After our song of dedication, the greeters will take up the offering. Generosity is a spiritual practice. Our fellowship is supported by our pledges and donations. If you're paying your pledge with a check today, please make a note on the memo line. Normally, we share any cash offerings and unmarked checks with a local charity. This month, our Share the Plate is our own Emerging Needs Fund, which you'll find described in your order of service. It's one way of supporting our friends who may need a boost this holiday season. If you're visiting today, you are our guest. Feel free to just pass the plate on. Thank you. Reverend Kathy Hurt with There's a Feeling in the Air.
The truism that life happens while you're making plans seems especially to come into play during the holidays, because the particular holidays we approach now become intricate events where decorations, rituals, family schedules, cooking, and gift giving are involved, the possibility of something not coming out right, one of those unexpected life events unfolding and wreaking havoc on all our plans, is likely to happen to all of us at some point. It might be something as simple as inclement weather that requires postponement of some part of the holiday plan. It might be something as challenging as a bout of illness that means somebody somewhere is stuck at home, missing the celebration. It might be something as painful as the death of a loved one who tried to hang on until the holidays were past but simply could not endure any longer. Life happens, and those plans that had been carefully assembled to ensure a perfect holiday celebration all fall apart. Then the celebration takes on a whole other feeling because it no longer looks the way we expected it to look. While my parents were fairly casual about many aspects of Christmas, leaving it up to my siblings and me to decide when the tree was put up and to decorate it, and leaving it up to my grandmother to do most of the baking, they were intent on having gift opening happen in a very prescribed way. We opened wrapped presents on Christmas Eve that were our gifts to one another. Presents from Santa were not wrapped, and those appeared under the tree Christmas morning. Once one of us was awake, we could wake up everyone else, but nobody was allowed into the living room to see the gifts until all were awake, dressed, and lined up in our reverse birth order. So the youngest entered the room first and the oldest last. My father would have a movie camera set up with blinding lights to record the whole affair. Christmas unfolded in the same fashion each year, and no suggestions or objections from anyone could change it. But death could. One year, my parents received a call on Christmas Eve that my father's last living sibling, an older brother, had died from an accidental fall earlier that evening. The next morning, Christmas Day, instead of the procession to see what Santa had brought, each one straggled in alone as we woke up. There was no filming of the event. My father gathered himself that morning and drove to my grandmother's house to inform her that another of her children had died. Life happens while you're making plans, and sometimes death happens that way as well. I so hope that none of your plans will be disrupted this year by death or illness or any sort of hard experience. God knows we've endured enough disruptions and hard experiences these past months. We've been shaken loose from easy assumptions about what our lives will be. That sort of shaking is painful to endure. Yet at times it may be necessary if we are to dig deeper, to grow, to come up with a greater truth than the truths we've been holding on to, perhaps beyond the point of usefulness. Injustice has grown while we were busy making plans, and we have still not figured out what to do with those plans overthrown. It will likely be some time before we have new plans put into place. The holidays that lie before us have been changed. The ways in which we talk about peace on earth and hope, as we so often do at the holidays, are changing and will change more. We plan, we run along assuming we have control, and then life happens. And so much for being in control. For Mary and Joseph, preparing to get married, the very sort of disruption of wedding plans that no couple wants unfolded when Mary learned she was pregnant. She insisted that the pregnancy was a miracle because she had not been unfaithful to her beloved Joseph. He did not believe her. And Joseph prepared to go through with an alternate plan to withdraw from the engagement until a dream overthrew his plans and convinced him that, believe it or not, the pregnancy was a miracle. So the couple shifted gears, began preparing for the birth of a child, only to have those plans overthrown by a governmental demand for a census counting to be undertaken, and each citizen would have to show up for the counting at the place of birth. Suddenly, the couple were on a long and dangerous trip instead of painting the nursery. They were looking for shelter instead of cuddling up at home by the fire. And they were welcoming their son into the world alone, apart from their families, in a dirty and cold barn surrounded by animals. Babies come into the world. Life happens while other plans are being made. Often at this time of year, we hear and may use the phrase, getting into the spirit of the season, getting the Christmas spirit. That image seems to suggest that there is a particular mood or mindset that we seek in order to move through the holiday season properly, so that we don't put a damper on celebrations or bring others down with us or find ourselves at odds with all that is happening. And what is that spirit exactly? What does it look like? How does it feel? What actions does it inspire? Where does it come from? And does it automatically disappear once we turn the calendar to January? And if so, why? If I look at the messages from our culture, I might conclude that the holiday spirit involves spending more money than I usually would on a pile of stuff for others so they know I really do love them. The holiday spirit would involve eating more than I ought to, especially more sugar and butter than I usually do. The holiday spirit would include decorating my home, going to parties, consuming extra alcohol, moving at a much faster pace, whether walking or driving, smiling and laughing regardless of whether I want to smile or laugh, and being much more patient with everybody, especially those I stand beside in long checkout lines, or when someone tells me my gift is not going to reach me in time. Notice in those images how there isn't much new introduced into what I might do any other time. Life always includes shopping and eating and drinking and getting busy and waiting. But the new element that is introduced is the quality of more. More shopping, more eating and drinking, more busyness, more waiting, more patience, more goodwill. The spirit of the holidays enters with the expansion of more. But the notion of more is a tricky one and apt to be misunderstood when it is interpreted literally rather than spiritually. Our culture is all about more in the sense of increased size or numbers or amount, more things, more money, more friends, more wonderful experiences, more members in the congregation. We receive the constant message as consumers that whatever we have at present is not enough and that only with more can we hope to be happy. That particular definition of the meaning of more is what makes the holiday season so frenetic and so filled with the potential for frustration. We enter into the holidays in the spirit of more and either exhaust ourselves with cramming too much into a short space of time or disappoint ourselves with not cramming enough into too short a space of time. The Christmas spirit seems to hinge on whether we have enough more in our lives. More gifts, more food, more parties, more love, more goodwill. And with expectations so high, it is predictable that life will find some way to intervene and thwart our drive for more. And once January arrives, we deflate from that pumped up version of more. The spirit we seek at Christmas is all about more, but not in the sense of a greater amount of anything, not in the sense in which our culture urges us to understand our longing for more. A spiritual vision of more looks very different from a staggering pile of gifts under a tree and a groaning table of food. The first clues come from some of the characters in the Christmas narrative. Joseph and Mary are from a poor class, a miraculous baby is born in a dirty barn, and shepherds, who were the lowest class in the country at that time, those are the ones who see the angels. None of these characters, none of these settings come with any possibility for having the excesses of more that we're accustomed to. These characters will never live in homes filled with stuff, never have celebrations with piles of presents, and probably seldom, if ever, come to a table loaded with food and drink. Yet these are the characters and settings that are put before us as clues to finding the true spirit of Christmas. A spiritual understanding of more does not require addition, but paradoxically requires subtraction. More enters our lives spiritually, not through piling up stuff and money and experiences, but when limits are lifted, particularly the limits we impose in our efforts to define reality and control our lives. The Christmas narrative presents a story of lives spinning absolutely out of control: an unplanned pregnancy, a government demand to drop everything and travel at the last minute, a crowded town where every hotel room has been booked, birth pangs and nowhere safe and clean to have a baby, two young people left on their own to figure out an infant's needs with no family around to help, sheep running around scared and lost, and shepherds who are equally scared and lost when a quiet night is shattered. Every image in the story is an image of losing control, of life slamming into plans and leaving no chance of putting them back into place. Such a story should leave us dismayed, shaking our heads at catastrophe, yet that story comes to us with light and music and an invitation to see it filled with hope. And the reason it becomes a story of joy rather than disaster is because it brings the amazing news of more, that there is more to us and more to reality than we had ever believed possible. That there is more than we thought there was because we saw only ourselves and the reality around us in a binary vision, when we saw ourselves and the reality around us as always lacking enough, as always poor, as always needing something else. Christmas images tell us that the more we long for is already here. It's here all the time, not just this season, but always. That we and the reality around us is filled with holiness and wholeness. That the more we seek doesn't have yet to be found, doesn't have to be earned, but is present in us and with us right from the start. So long as we keep insisting that we're lacking, that we don't have enough, that we need more, we not only set ourselves up to be unable to experience the more that is already here, we fix in place the injustices, especially class and economic injustices, that have been created and are maintained because we're captive to the literal consumer version of more and miss the spiritual version of more. If we want to see it and know it, the story seems to say, we have to be willing for plans to fall completely apart. We have to be willing to lose control for a time so that the energies that fuel the Christmas spirit and flow through the Christmas story, those larger energies of life and love that we so long to have, can finally enter. When we put our holiday plans in place in our customary good-hearted efforts to control everything so that we have a positive experience this year, maybe we could experiment by leaving a few things unscripted, unaccounted for. The list we make up, not entirely finished. Control is good and necessary. I love having control. But over-control means I see only what I planned for and don't see the surprises that wait for me outside my expectations. For beyond the limits of control, out in all that wild open space where so much else exists, out there, that is where we find the spirit that can lift our hearts, that can help us hope when hope seems impossible. The spirit that promises us over and over that there can be peace on earth because there is enough for everyone, and so much more. May it be so. Amen. We're going to do another round of singing your favorites out of that section of the hymnals. So if you want to pull out your hymnals again. Jim.
Oh, come all you faithful. I had the number and I forgot.
253. Oh, come all you faithful. Please rise in body or spirit. Did you sing Latin or did you sing the words you know? Because being Unitarian Universalists, you can sing whatever words you want. Another carol selection. Let's do one more. Amanda. 248. 248.
Oh, we believe in
And let's sing the first and the fourth verses. words of the benediction are by Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels has finished, when the star is gone from the sky, when the kings and princes have returned home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, then the real work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to free the prisoner, to bring peace on earth to all the earth. May it be so. Happy solstice, happy holidays. Please remain seated for the postlude.
May joy be your companion, whether you are alone or with others. May love be your strength, and may the gift of community dwell in your heart. For here, in this place, you are always welcome. Thank you for coming. Please join us in the back. Good to see you.
You're very good.